Have you ever woken up at 2:17 in the morning, staring at the ceiling after your third trip to the bathroom, telling yourself it's just part of getting older? Have you noticed your socks leaving deeper marks around your ankles, or felt that quiet, dragging fatigue that coffee doesn't seem to fix anymore? Most Americans over 60 brush these signs aside. But what if I told you those small, inconvenient moments could be your kidneys, whispering for help long before they ever scream? I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and after more than 20 years in clinical practice, I can tell you something that still unsettles my patients. Kidney disease doesn't usually arrive with fireworks. It creeps in, silently stealing function year after year until nearly half of your filtering capacity is gone, and by then the conversation shifts from prevention to survival. In the United States alone, millions of adults are walking around with declining kidney function and have no idea it's happening because early damage feels almost invisible, and that invisibility is exactly what makes it dangerous. But here's the part most people never hear clearly enough. Your kidneys are working for you every second, filtering your blood, balancing fluids, regulating minerals, and clearing out metabolic waste. And the foods you choose today can either overload those delicate filters or quietly support them. What if protecting your kidneys didn't require a complicated cleanse, a shelf full of supplements, or an extreme diet you can't sustain, but instead began with 4 simple, affordable foods you can find at any grocery store in America? Foods that help your body flush out toxins, naturally reduce inflammation, and ease the pressure on your kidneys, starting with your very next meal. Stay with me, because the first food on this list is something many people already eat every week, often in the wrong way, and correcting that one habit alone could change how your kidneys function sooner than you think. Beans. Not glamorous, not trending on social media, not labeled as a miracle detox. And yet this simple food may be one of the most underrated kidney protective tools sitting in your kitchen right now. When we talk about flushing toxins, most people think about juice cleanses or expensive supplements. But real detoxification begins in the gut, and that is where beans quietly change the game. Here's why. Your kidneys filter nearly 50 gallons of blood every single day, but when blood sugar spikes, when LDL cholesterol rises, and when inflammation simmers in the background, those microscopic filtering units, the nephrons, begin to suffer. Beans act as a metabolic stabilizer. Half a cup of cooked beans delivers about 6 to 9 grams of plant-based protein, along with a powerful dose of soluble fiber. That fiber slows glucose absorption, reduces insulin spikes, and lowers cholesterol levels. 3 major drivers of chronic kidney decline in adults over 60. Let me tell you about Robert, a 64-year-old patient who came to see me after noticing swelling in his ankles and waking up 3 times a night to urinate. His labs showed early-stage kidney stress and borderline high blood sugar. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would make headlines, but enough to worry me. Instead of jumping straight to aggressive dietary restrictions, we made one strategic shift, replacing 2 weekly red meat dinners with fiber-rich black beans and lentils. Within 8 weeks, his fasting glucose stabilized, his LDL dropped by 18 points, and most importantly, his nighttime bathroom trips decreased. That's not magic. That's physiology. Fiber acts like a broom through the digestive tract, binding excess waste and metabolic byproducts before they ever reach the bloodstream, which means your kidneys don't have to work as hard to filter them out later. And here's something most people don't realize. The potassium in beans is absorbed more gradually compared to many animal-based sources, making them surprisingly kidney-friendly when portioned correctly. On top of that, beans are loaded with antioxidants like flavonoids and polyphenols, compounds shown to reduce systemic inflammation, one of the silent accelerators of chronic kidney disease. Now pause for a second. Have you ever skipped beans because you thought they were too high in carbs, or avoided them out of fear they might hurt your kidneys? If so, you're not alone. And I want you to tell me in the comments, because this misunderstanding is more common than you think. When inflammation decreases and blood sugar steadies, the pressure inside those delicate kidney filters begins to ease. That relief doesn't make noise. It doesn't trend, but it matters. And while beans may strengthen the shield around your kidneys, protein quality becomes even more critical as we age, because not all proteins are processed equally, and the next food on this list changes that equation in a way most Americans completely overlook. But knowing this alone is not enough because there is another factor even more dangerous hiding in plain sight. Protein quality. That's where the conversation shifts. Because while beans help shield your kidneys through fiber and metabolic balance, the type of protein you eat after 60 can either quietly protect your filtration system or accelerate its decline. And this is where tofu enters the picture, not as a trendy plant-based substitute, but as a strategic kidney support tool that most Americans underestimate. Here's the reality: animal protein, especially red and processed meats, increases acid load, phosphorus burden, and metabolic stress on the kidneys. Over time, that extra strain forces the nephrons, those microscopic filtering units, to work harder, increasing internal pressure inside the kidney's delicate structures. Tofu, on the other hand, provides high-quality plant protein without that same inflammatory cost. Half a cup of tofu contains roughly 10 grams of protein, but with significantly lower phosphorus and sodium levels compared to many animal-based options. Even more importantly, its potassium content averages around 120 milligrams per half cup, moderate, manageable, and far less overwhelming than many processed meats or dairy-heavy meals. Let me share a story. Linda, 68 years old, came to me worried after her routine labs showed creeping creatinine levels. She wasn't eating junk food. She cooked at home. But her dinners revolved around steak, chicken, or pork almost every night. When we analyzed her diet, the pattern was clear: high animal protein, low fiber, minimal plant diversity. Instead of cutting protein drastically, which can backfire in older adults, we made a targeted change. 3 nights a week, we replaced her meat entree with baked tofu, seasoned lightly with olive oil and herbs. After 12 weeks, her inflammatory markers improved, her blood pressure stabilized, and her kidney function stopped declining. The change wasn't dramatic, it was strategic. Tofu also contains isoflavones and antioxidants shown to reduce systemic inflammation, one of the primary drivers of chronic kidney disease progression. Lower inflammation means smoother filtration, less microvascular damage, and reduced oxidative stress inside the kidneys. And because tofu is naturally lower in saturated fat, it supports cardiovascular health as well, something deeply connected to kidney survival. Remember, what protects the heart often protects the kidneys. Now, I want to ask you something directly. Have you ever assumed that more protein is always better, especially as you age? Have you loaded your plate with meat, thinking it would preserve strength without realizing it might be increasing kidney workload? If that sounds familiar, tell me in the comments, because this misconception is everywhere, and correcting it could literally extend your kidney function by years. But pause here for a moment. Protein swaps matter, mineral balance matters, inflammation control matters. Yet detoxification doesn't happen only through what you replace on your dinner plate. Sometimes protection begins with something much simpler, something most people already have in their refrigerator every single week, and almost no one thinks of as kidney supportive. And just knowing this about protein isn't enough, because there is another factor even more dangerous hiding in plain sight. Apples. Simple, ordinary, almost boring, and that's exactly why most people underestimate them. After talking about fiber shields and smarter protein choices, you might be expecting something exotic or expensive next. But sometimes kidney protection doesn't come from what's complicated. It comes from what's consistent. And apples, when used strategically, become a quiet anti-inflammatory tool that works in the background every single day. Here's what most people don't realize: kidney damage is rarely explosive. It's microscopic. It happens at the level of tiny blood vessels inside the glomeruli, the delicate filters that strain waste from your blood. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, when oxidative stress builds up, those tiny vessels stiffen and scar. Apples help interrupt that cycle. A medium apple contains roughly 95 to 106 milligrams of potassium, only about 8 to 10 milligrams of phosphorus, and virtually no sodium, making it one of the safest fruits for individuals monitoring kidney function. But the real power isn't just in what apples lack, it's in what they contain. Apples are rich in soluble fiber, particularly pectin, which helps stabilize post-meal glucose levels. Stable glucose means less glycation damage to kidney tissues. In addition, apples are loaded with polyphenols like quercetin compounds shown in multiple studies to reduce systemic inflammation and oxidative stress. Think of it this way: if your kidneys are like high-performance coffee filters, repeated sugar spikes are like pouring syrup through them. Eventually they clog. Apples help prevent that clogging from happening in the first place. Let me tell you about Margaret, 72 years old. She wasn't diabetic, she wasn't obese, but her A1C had been creeping upward year after year, and her eGFR was slowly trending down. Nothing dramatic, nothing alarming enough to trigger panic. We didn't overhaul her diet overnight. We added one structured habit, half an apple mid-morning, instead of processed snack crackers paired with a handful of nuts to slow absorption further. After 3 months, her glucose variability improved significantly and her inflammatory markers decreased. Small shift, measurable difference. Now let me ask you directly, how many times have you reached for fruit juice instead of whole fruit thinking it's healthier? Juice strips away the fiber that makes apples protective in the first place. That fiber's not optional, it's the mechanism. And if you've been drinking your fruit instead of chewing it, that might be one of the silent mistakes quietly stressing your kidneys. But here's where it gets deeper. Apples protect the bloodstream. They calm inflammation. They stabilize sugar. Yet detoxification doesn't end in the blood, because there's another system deeply connected to kidney health that most people never consider: the gut. And what happens inside your gut can either lighten the toxic load on your kidneys or dramatically increase it. But just knowing this about apples is not enough, because there is another factor even more dangerous hiding in plain sight. Yogurt. This is where everything connects. We've talked about fiber stabilizing blood sugar. We've talked about smarter protein reducing inflammatory load. We've talked about antioxidants protecting microscopic blood vessels. But none of that works at full capacity if your gut is constantly leaking toxins into your bloodstream. And this is the part most people, even health-conscious Americans, completely overlook. Your gut and your kidneys are in constant communication. In medical research, we call it the gut-kidney axis. When the bacteria in your gut become imbalanced, harmful compounds like uremic toxins increase. Those toxins enter circulation and place additional strain on already vulnerable kidneys. Over time, that extra burden accelerates filtration decline. Yogurt, especially plain or Greek varieties with live active cultures, introduces beneficial probiotics that help rebalance gut bacteria and reduce the production of these toxic metabolites before they ever reach your kidneys. Let me share something that surprised even one of my most skeptical patients. James, 70 years old, had stable but slowly declining kidney function for 5 years. Nothing catastrophic, but trending downward. He was disciplined with his diet, controlled his blood pressure, and exercised regularly. Yet his labs barely budged. The missing link: gut health. We introduced half a cup of plain Greek yogurt daily, no added sugar, no fruit syrup, just live cultures paired with fiber from whole foods. After 4 months, not only did his digestive symptoms improve, but inflammatory markers dropped and his kidney numbers stabilized for the first time in years. That wasn't coincidence. That was biology. Here's the science. A half cup of plain non-fat yogurt provides roughly 4 grams of protein, around 120 to 130 milligrams of phosphorus, and about 200 milligrams of potassium. Greek yogurt often delivers over 10 grams of protein with slightly lower potassium levels due to straining. More importantly, the probiotic strains like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium help reduce circulating endotoxins in systemic inflammation. Lower inflammation means less microvascular damage inside the kidney's delicate filtration network. But pause for a second. How many times have you picked up flavored yogurt thinking it was healthy without realizing it contains as much sugar as a dessert? That added sugar completely reverses the protective effect. If you've ever made that mistake, you're not alone. And I want you to tell me in the comments, because this is one of the most common hidden traps I see. Here's the bigger picture. Detoxification is not about dramatic cleanses. It's about reducing the daily toxic load your kidneys must filter. Beans sweep the gut. Tofu reduces inflammatory protein burden. Apples protect the bloodstream. And yogurt strengthens the gut barrier so fewer toxins even enter circulation in the first place. When all 4 work together, you're not just supporting your kidneys, you're strategically lowering the stress they face every single day. But only knowing this is not enough, because there is one final truth that determines whether your kidneys quietly stabilize over the next decade or continue declining toward dialysis, and almost no one talks about it openly. If there's one thing I want you to remember from today, it's this: your kidneys are incredibly resilient. They work for you every single minute, filtering nearly 50 gallons of blood a day, quietly protecting your heart, your brain, your energy, your life. And the beautiful part is this: you don't need extreme detoxes, expensive supplements, or complicated routines to support them. You just need consistent, smart daily choices: a half cup of beans, swapping one heavy meat meal for tofu, choosing an apple instead of a processed snack, adding plain Greek yogurt to strengthen your gut. Small shifts repeated daily create powerful long-term protection. I know health information online can feel overwhelming, but you don't have to fix everything overnight. Start with one food this week, then add another next week. Protecting your kidneys is not about perfection, it's about direction. And if you're over 50, over 60, or even older, please hear me clearly, it is not too late. I have seen patients stabilize their kidney numbers simply by reducing inflammation and toxic load through consistent nutrition changes. If this video helped you, save it so you can come back and use it as a reminder when you plan your meals. And make sure you subscribe to this channel, because every week I share practical science-based medical insights designed to help you protect your kidneys, manage inflammation, and age stronger, not weaker. I truly read your comments, so tell me your age and where you're watching from. Let's build a community that chooses prevention over regret. Your kidneys are not asking for miracles. They are asking for support. And when you give them the right environment, they often respond better than you expect. Take care of them now, and they can take care of you for many healthy years to come.